Welcome to my tutorial for beginners, Autumn Landscape in Acrylics. Titanium white, yellow, yellow ochre, yellow orange, orange, red, sienna, ultramarine and phthalo blue. We'll be using our angle brushes, thin brushes for finer lines, fan brush, thick round brush with flat top and flat brushes for the background and the foreground. I'm drawing the horizon line to separate the sky from the plane. Using ultramarine blue and white, I'm starting from the right from the top and coming down, and as I come down I'll make the color lighter. I have used for the foreground raw sienna, yellow ochre, and as I go back I'm going to mix it with lighter colors like yellow and white till I reach the end of the horizon. Now you can see the depth. I'm making some trees on the horizon line to give an illusion that this is where my land starts. These trees may not show in the final painting, but they will help me with my composition, and so that I can, according to this distance, I can make the trees in the front. I'm placing trees at the back and in the front. The colors which I'm using are muted ultramarine with a bit of red. No two trees are of the same length, thickness or height. Now I'm also working on the branches. I'm drawing some trees on the other side as well, which is going to take the eye back to my main focal point, which is the main tree. Acrylic with some water, I am roughly painting the trees and the foliage. I have not used very pure acrylic or very thick acrylic, because this is just like placing of different features. Now I'm doing the foliage in different groups and in clusters. This color is very muted, so it's just a guideline for me. I've also used some green in various areas so that I can be conscious of the source of light. Now I have taken some raw sienna with ultramarine, and I'm drawing, or let's say just with soft strokes, I'm putting the trunks of the trees and some foliage as well in the background. I need to work the background first. Now I'm trying to determine where I want the lights to be. Yes, now I have the lights. Right now I'm working on this tree on the left, which is going to take the eye towards the center of the composition. very gently making the branches, not pressing too hard, because if you press too hard you get a thicker line, and when you gently just make the branch you get a thinner branch and a more delicate branch. And since this is a bushy tree, it's not a big trunk tree. Now I'm adding texture to the foliage of the tree, just here and there, not a very thick texture. And now I'm taking raw sienna with ultramarine and adding some dark tones, dark foliage in clusters and groups on the main tree. I've added the same color in the foreground green area to create a sense of harmony and for the eye to go back to the main tree or to the main subject. It's very important to repeat the colors here and there very strategically. Now I'm using an ochre on the tree to give a different look to the trees. I've also added in the bushes I've added some yellow. They could be wildflowers, they could be grass, it could be grass or leaves. And as you can see, the direction of the plants in the foreground are also directing towards the main to the focal point. As you can see, the brush is moving at the same time all around the picture so that nothing looks out of place and all the features connect with each other. Like over here, I'm using some yellow white. Now my brush is going upwards as if moving on its own. So I'm working on the back. I'm giving a slight glaze to make this part of the painting a little bit dull. Now my brush has gone back to the bushy tree, and I'm adding that ochreish, warmer color to it. Here I'm giving some glaze or washes just to indicate where the source of light and shadows of the tree. Adding some ochre with white and yellow, I'm now going to put some lighter foliage on this autumn tree. Just tapping here and there. Now this ochre has to be very light. Here at the edges of the trees I'm using the same color, trying to make it sort of less harsh and more subtle. On the top I'm using a lighter yellow and ochre. Now I've come back. I've taken up some ultramarine with ochre, a greenish ochre, just to mark out some areas, some dots on the tree, which will give a lot of depth to the tree and to the darker areas, because there is always some green even in an autumn tree. So now here I'm adding some color, the same dark color. As you can see, the tree is getting some like it's getting a new dimension, and the darks are bringing out the lights even more. Now I'm just adding some random leaves which are a bit far away from the main tree, and I've come back to the foreground where I'm going to separate these bushes and these grasses by using ultramarine and phthalo blue to give them some character and to separate them. Here I'm adding some more, and tapping at the same time to show some darker foliage here. Now going back to the tree, I'm now adding yellow with white, yellow orange, and adding bright autumn leaves. I have to make sure that I create a lot of variation in my strokes, otherwise it can look very boring or it can be a bit patchy. So all the time I keep moving my brush between my fingers in different directions. That's very important. It gives you variation of marks. Again, I've gone on the top, and then now I've come in the front. I'm adding some fallen leaves. With ochre, rose sienna, orange, yellow orange, lemon yellow, trying to give as much fallen leaf texture, keeping in mind the source of light. So I have to show the source of light as well as create the texture of fallen leaves. I'm using yellow orange and lemon yellow with white to show some leaves which are catching the light. Leaves at the top here and there are catching a lot of light. Now I've also decided to add a little bit of raw sienna, and on top of it maybe I'll add some more color and highlights, because I just feel that this raw sienna projects, and we do have dry brown leaves as well. So again I've taken the light color, which was yellow with white, orange yellow, yellow ochre, and just tapping here and there in different directions, because fallen leaves they don't fall in uniformly, they just fall in different directions. So that's what I'm trying my best to show in this tutorial. It's very easy for beginners. Now I'm just drawing some grasses which are catching light around the tree trunk, because since they are dry, plus some leaves have fallen on the grass, so they are catching some light. I'm trying to show some leaves which have fallen on these few spiky grasses. Now I'm just going to lighten this part of the tree to make the tree trunk stand out. Now the tree trunk has to stand out a bit because the light is coming from the back of the tree. So now I'm just adding some lights on the tree, going with the bark, giving it a bark-like shape. Just suggestion. And on the branches, I'm adding some light on the branches because they are catching light. So here also needs to be, some branches will become very, very light, because if they catch more light, they'll be very light. So here I'm again going a bit here and there with a lighter color on the branches, so they don't look flat and they have kind of a roundness to them. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.